Good evening. Thank you all for joining today. Welcome to the Retail and Consumer Goods Virtual User Group. We're really excited about being able to allow us all as customers, consumer goods customers and retail customers to really be able to share our stories, our learnings, the way we're using Tableau to be able to share with the community. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kevin King. I'm actually the Director of Reporting and Analytics for Coca-Cola Bottling Company located here in Charlotte. We've been a user of Tableau for about 6 or 7 years. We've had the ability to present at a few Tableau conferences as well as local user groups. And we're really excited, myself and Karen, to be able to host this retail session with you guys. And we're hoping that you're going to learn some really awesome things with the speaker that we have today. One housekeeping thing would be to please utilize the Q&A function of the webinar to be able to ask questions as we go along and as our speaker starts beginning to share their learnings as well. At this point, I'll turn it over to Karen to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Henson. I've been at Chick-fil-A and using Tableau since 2013. I'm an analyst in our financial services department at Chick-fil-A on a team called the Field Analysis and Performance Reporting Group. I've learned so much from Tableau connections over the last few years, just people I've met at conferences and gotten to know through the Atlanta Tableau user group. I really look forward to helping build up this virtual community so that we can learn from each other. We've got a slide. This next slide will show a forum. If you've never used the community forums online, definitely check this out. You may not be aware of it, but there is a retail and consumer goods forum specifically for this group. So this virtual group, we can all stay in touch, ask questions of one another, share ideas, tips, tricks. This is just a great place for everyone to stay connected. So I just really encourage everyone to use it. I'll go ahead and introduce our speaker for today. Our speaker today is Simon Runk from Atheon Analytics. Simon's presentation is on mapping dashboards to task. And I'm not sure about you guys, but we definitely struggle with this at Chick-fil-A. We're pressured a lot to create a dashboard that can just do everything, it seems like. So I really like the idea of building focused dashboards to make a specific task easier for an end user. A little about Simon. Simon is the lead visual data analyst at Atheon Analytics in the UK. He has over 10 years of retail experience and is all about data-driven decision-making. He began using Tableau in 2014 and became a Tableau ambassador in 2015. And he attributes most of his Tableau knowledge to his engagement on the Tableau forums. Simon is also vegan, loves to cycle, and has 5 rescue cats. I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Simon.
Cool. Thank you very much. I'll just share my screen. 1 second. Okay. Okay, can everyone hear me and see that? I'll take that as a yes. Hello. Okay, so thank you very much for Karen and Kevin for the introduction, and thanks a lot for inviting me along to talk today. So today, I'd like to talk about something that we've been thinking about a lot recently, which I've bracketed under the very catchy term task-focused dashboards. So you can see why I chose a career in data viz over marketing. So first, I'll give you a quick outline of what I plan to talk about today. So first up, I'm just going to talk about why highly focused dashboards, exactly what I mean by that, why I think they're a good idea, and why I think they work. That leads us into some of our principles for good data visualization. I think we'll spend the majority of the time looking at what these highly focused dashboards actually look like by showing some operational dashboard examples, looking at flow of goods, availability and promotions, and also some strategic dashboards, which is a sort of a different task, looking at some examples of some sales and pricing. And finally, no Tableau webinar is complete without leaving with a couple of tips and tricks. So I'll show you a couple of tricks that we can use, how we can use actions to create some sort of pretty cool app-like behavior within Tableau. So let's start off with the where did this all come from and the why. So what do I mean by task-focused dashboards? So the dashboard here is a good example of what I've seen many times. I actually designed this a few years ago, and it was originally designed to highlight where product store combinations were carrying too much stock in a fresh area, leading to high waste. However, over sort of the weeks and months, users requested to do other things. So look at how volume and price change affected waste, look at sales by product, allow users to go back many months, and various other things, which meant adding extra visuals, filters, parameters, etc. So what that led to is this dashboard is now trying to do too much and actually achieves neither task particularly effectively. There's just too much on the screen and too many settings, and it's actually much better than what they came from, which was a massive array of Excel spreadsheets. So we started looking at the tasks each user wanted to achieve, and also look at what each person within each role did 90% of their time, and then build highly focused dashboards which do just those tasks. So each dashboard is optimized to achieve that task simply and efficiently, and not a bunch of other partly related things that are occasionally required. During this sort of thinking, we sort of broke it down into two broad categories of tasks. So one is operational. So this isn't concerned with long-term trends. It's not concerned if the ranging or the promotion strategy is right and that kind of thing. It's concerned with the day-to-day execution of stuff. It's not looking at long-term trends. It really is like the day-to-day management of what your plans are and executing them. The other is strategic tasks. So these are things like looking for particular ranging or pricing or promotion strategies effective, and other kind of strategic planning type things, and post-mortem and that kind of thing. And this is not something that you do every day. You might do something like this monthly, quarterly, biannually. So it needs to have more flexibility. It needs to look at multiple metrics together to sort of tell a data story, and also how they interrelate to one another and that kind of thing. So these dashboards need to allow the user to really explore and dig into the various aspects they're looking at. So this kind of thinking of sort of creating these kind of task-focused dashboards sort of led into our principles that we try and guide our design visualization. So I will share those with you. So the first principle, when it comes up on the screen, is the highly focused dashboard. So as I said, we build dashboards for a purpose and for a task, and are completely optimized to do just that task and do that task exceptionally well and efficiently. The other principle that we have is to blend data from multiple sources. So we'll see today that we'll be looking at data that resides in depot systems, store systems, inventory systems, order systems, forecasting systems, what have you. You need it all together in one place in order to make sense of it. So one of our important things is to blend data from multiple sources. Another thing is to make things as simple as possible, but not simpler. So visualization has a great method for simplifying things. So it can take something that's very complicated and make it understandable and simple. However, you can take this too far by, you don't want to make things so simple that it's now such a high level of aggregation, you can no longer action it. So the sales being down over the entire company by 5% is very simple, but it doesn't really tell you very much. It doesn't really tell you where's that coming from, what's causing that, etc. So keep things as simple as possible, but not so simple that you can't actually create actions. The final two, interactivity. So hugely important here. I found it almost impossible to create the single static view of data, which allows everyone to do what they want to do. This is where the sort of 500-page PDF that lands on your desk every Monday morning comes from, where someone's basically screenshotted every filter anyone might have ever wanted to think of, and you have to turn to page 346 to find the volume by month for category X, etc. Interactivity is a much more natural way of getting around your data, digging in, revealing information at the level you require it when you require it. So that's a hugely important principle. And the final one is we try to go from visuals to numbers. So by this, I mean that visualization is a fantastic way of getting insight into your data, finding things to action and driving that action. But when you actually take that action, you can't really do it from a bar chart. A bar chart is an approximation. You can't tell whether the value is 120,000 or 121,246. So you cannot send a bar chart to your factory and say, manufacture this many. You need to send them a number. So we use the visuals to get to the insight or the action, and allow the user very quickly to flip the numbers, and then can easily download that number, whatever they need to do with it to drive the action. So those are our kind of our principles for good visualization. So before I get stuck into some actual examples of this, I just want to introduce you to an idea which you may well have heard in met before, and maybe called in a different term. So we know this is the flow of goods. And so one of the fundamentals of retailing is to ensure that the product is on the shelf in the store when the customer wants to buy it. And products don't just magically appear in store. They get there via a series of interdependent stages. And each stage is dependent on the previous one, meaning it doesn't matter if you get 4 out of 5 stages right. If you get 1 wrong, it's likely to have a detrimental impact on the final goal, which is making sure a product is available in store when a customer wants to buy it. So if we have a quick look at the flow of goods, we have initially the supplier manufactures things in their factory. They get an order from the retailer, usually into a depot. They deliver stock into that depot. The depots then get orders from the stores, and then the stores, the depots then fulfill that demand to the store. The store puts it out on shelf. The customer picks it up, and then the final business end of the flow of goods is the customer actually buying it. So I want to introduce you to this because on the operational side of things, we build our dashboards to map to these stages so that the supply chain analyst, which we're going to look at some examples of, some dashboards for them, can quickly see any issues at each stage and then follow these issues through the flow, either forward so they could see the impact of the problem and how much attention it requires, or backward to find the cause of the problem and so take an action to rectify it. So for example, we could start at availability and find out our biggest availability problems, and then track that backwards and find out what's causing it. So was the supplier not delivering stock it should have, or is there plenty of stock in the depot and the depot isn't issuing to store, or whatever it might be. So the first dashboard we'll look at is for the day-to-day management of stock and deliveries. It's not concerned strategically with assessing a supply over time. That is valuable, a worthwhile task, but we create a separate dashboard for that, which is optimized to look at just that problem, and would not be concerned with sort of the recent day stock positions, etc. So let us dive into our first dashboard. So the first part of the flow of goods is the inbound stock. So this is the stock from suppliers or manufacturers into the retailer depots. And what we're looking at here is across the top, we've got some KPIs. We've got the service level, and we've got that broken down. So there were 100,000 odd cases ordered over the last 7 days. So we look at it at a recent period of time. We can then see how many of those were actually delivered and how many of those were shorted. Over here, very simply, we've just got it by product. So we can see the number of cases shorted over the last 7 days, and each of these stacked bars is a day of a missed delivery, with the most red number being the most recent to highlight it. And if you look over to the right, you can see the cross-highlighting telling you exactly which day you're looking at. So this is going to surface to the top of this list all the things which have had consistent delivery problems over time. Because you always got to remember that the end goal of this is availability. Supplier service level is not the end goal of supply chain. It is a useful measure for it, but it's not the end goal. So if you have had a missed delivery for a particular day, but actually the stores and therefore the customers aren't affected, it's not that big a problem. You really want to know which things are causing problems. So that is looking at it by SKU. We then go and we can look at it by depot as well, because this is a really important part, is when you look at stock in aggregate, which you're often forced to do in text tables because you can't consume this level of data, you miss these geographical subtleties. So it might well be that my Scotland depot is well overstocked and my London depot is well understocked. In aggregate, I've got a perfect amount of stock, but it doesn't help my London stores. It does not matter how overstocked Scotland becomes. London stores are going out of stock of that product. We've got annoyed customers and we're losing sales. So this lets us know not just the delivery was missed, but where it was missed and whether it's a problem or not. And over to the right here, we've then just got the list over the last 7 days, which we're looking at, and then the previous 21 days for a little bit of context. And this just shows me, so that the grey bar is how many orders were given that day. Or the stock that was ordered. The blue bar is filled up to what was actually delivered. And then the gaps, the bit of the grey bar you can see is the shorted deliveries, but we repeat that in red to draw your eye to it. And we do all of this in absolute cases, not percentages. So below we have the percentages, and here's a great example here of why percentages aren't a great way of looking at this, although they are a useful measure to normalize things. If we look here, this was Bank Holiday Monday, very, very few deliveries. Service level was 50%, so only half of the stock that was ordered actually got into depot. On the following day, though, the depot service level was 83%, so far better. But if we look here, actually the the 83%, there were 3,000 cases, 2,700 cases that were shorted, and on this day there are only 800. So you can see why sort of managing by sort of percentages is not always the best way, because you miss those big things. You're looking at everything relatively. So so this is the dashboard. It's it's designed for the supply chain analyst to very quickly find out what their biggest problems are. It's all interactive, so I can see here, I can click on this product, and straight away I get a view. I can see straight away that I've had a pretty good supply of this product. We then start having some problems here. It's now come back into supply, so the depot stock is looking, here's the stock, depot stock at the bottom here, and the stock cover, that's looking pretty good. But I can see actually that's not spread geographically. So North Wales is now getting all its orders. Some of the other ones are as well. But things like Stoke still aren't. So they still are only having, they have not had their orders, and their stock is, it's going down. I can look at Dorset Depot, which now is down at literally no stock at all. And I can very easily quick flip to the numbers and sort of take that action to know exactly what I need to send, who I need to contact, where I need to send it. So one of the sort of core parts of this is that we've actually broken the flow of goods down into one particular screen, so that somebody has got the entire screen view. The whole screen is dedicated to just one thing, not lots and lots of others trying to get in the outbound, the stock position, the sales, the availability, all in one place. But in order to do that, we need to allow people to find some things on this screen and then follow them through. So we do that through an idea of global and local filtering, and I will show you how to do this. So I can grab all these products here. Here's my worst products. I can add them to my global filter. Notice on the left-hand side here, these are now added to this filter. Indicates to me here, I'm now looking at 10 products out of the 121 I had originally. Click in here. Oh, not on that one, just there. And now I have that as a global filter. This is a local filter. And I can then move and go to my outbound stock and say, okay, well, how has this affected my depot's abilities to fulfill store demands? So I've got just these products here, and rather than having to go back, so now say, okay, I'm looking at I've got a jelly issue here. Right, I want to make sure that actually I want to see my strawberry jelly as well, because I know those products are transferable. Back in here, go into jelly, click on strawberry, click apply, and it adds it back in here. I don't need to go back to inbound to remake the selection, and I can select all and start here again. So straight away, this is the outbound. So this is going from depots to stores, set up exactly the same way. It's exactly the same essential problem. It's just that the order is from the stores, not from the depots. So we have a stores ordering how much was actually delivered, what was shorted, and what it is by depot. So again, we can click in these and find out, okay, so that one is looking pretty good. Most of the depots have been given all the stock they've been asked to over the last 7 days, apart from London. So we click on London, and straight away we can see the problem there. They have been shorting stores all week, and that's going to lead to problems in the London depots. So the other thing is, as I said, the most important part of all of this is actually the availability. It is the, that is the end goal of this. And this is when I tend to use Vision tooltips quite sparingly, but this is, I find, is a good way of a good use for them, which is over here. I can hover in here and get a little view of what availability is like as well. So we will get there in a second, but I can have a quick little look to say, okay, well, that product has been shorted from suppliers, but actually the availability is still 99%. It's not a massive problem. I'll keep an eye on it, but it's not a huge problem to sort out today. So it allows you to give the right amount of attention to the right amount of products. The next one, we can then go and have a look at the stock positions in store and in depot. So we can just flick over to stock, take our products with us. And what this is showing me now is we're looking at the total stock across the top, how much of that's in depot, how much is in store, what that cover is, how many issues we have. And this line here tells me what's the typical stock position of that product, and it tells me whether it is above or below that, and it also shows me my depot. So if I look here, this product is pretty much quite close to where it normally sits in terms of stock position. However, that's not evenly spread. Some of these depots are carrying less, some are more. I can click on that and find out exactly what the problem is. So Hertford, Hampshire, North Wales all carrying way more than they normally carry, but I've got problems in Scotland. I've got problems. I click on Scotland and see straight away, oh, oops, I've only got, I've got about a day of stock cover. So it lets me see that problem. The other thing I did say was that we can always go from viz to numbers. So if I wanted to go and have a look at these stock positions actually in number form, click on here. I can add that to my global filter. And you'll notice that all of these screens have a data button. I click on the data, and that will take me through to a data view. Here's the total stock, here's the depot stock, the store stock, and untick that, and I can see all of my depot stock over the last 14 days, coloured by how high that is against its normal level. And I've also got a little indicator here. This little dot just means there was a missed delivery that day, just to give me a little visual cue, and I can download all this and go and get back to go back to stock at any point I want. So this shows how you can, by creating these app-like actions and creating these very focused dashboards, that you can create these, you can really sort of dedicate sort of whole screens to just doing one particular task. Now, we jumped into the, I could go straight to the stock screen here. I'm just going to bring all the products back. Go to the stock screen here. I can go in here. I could grab all the products that I've got lower stock than they normally have. I can then add them to the global filter and follow that back through the flow of goods, through the outbound, the inbound, to find out where the problem is. So that is looking at the flow of goods. So the next part of the flow is obviously availability. Set up in a very similar way. Go into here and I can see my availability. Across the top here, I've got my availability level. I've got my stocking point. So that is SKU store combinations. So if I had 2 products in my range and they were to 100 stores each, that would be 200 stocking points. How many gaps have I got in totality? And also here at this point, I'll just move this out of the way, there'll also be some lost sales, because this is actually now costing me money. You know, if I'm a brand, it might well be that if somebody can't pick my product up, they go to a rival brand. So I've lost market share and I've lost that sale. If I'm a retailer and I have lost and I continue to have the same products out of stock the entire time, customer might well choose to do their shop elsewhere. I've lost their entire baskets and also future baskets. So I want to know what that's worth to me. So again here, this again highlights all the gaps in terms of the number of actual stores, not percentage-wise. We do show percentage here, but actually it's the number of gaps. If you can imagine a product that's in 100 stores, of which 20 stores are out of stock, so that is availability of 80%. Think of another product that's in 1,000 stores and it has 200 stores missing. That is also an availability percentage of 80%, but the second example has 10 times as many stores missing. Therefore, it's costing me at least 10 times as much, and actually probably more, because a product in 1,000 stores is likely to be a big, good-selling product. So each of its missing stocking points is worth more than each of the other products. So again, it's all fully interactive. I can click on here, and again, in a very similar way, we have the number of stores it's ranged to as the grey bar. We fill it up to how many stores have actually got stock, and repeat below here how many of those stores are missing to draw it to your eye, and we can see how much it's actually costing. So, and again, we could have started here. We could grab these products. These are my worst availability products, add them to the global filter, and then follow it back through the flow of goods to find out whether it's to do with the suppliers not delivering stock. Is the forecast wrong? And therefore, they're just not ordering enough. You know, the stock orders are wrong. They're delivering what they're supposed to do, but the actual order's wrong. Whatever I need to do, I can very, very quickly do it. And the final one is availability doesn't just happen at an aggregate level. This is just telling me 360 stores. It happens locally. It happens at store level. So we have an idea we know as HD data, meaning going right down to store, day, SKU level. Yeah, a big amount of data, and you cannot do this in Excel, not just because you can't fit it in Excel. This is 1.2 million rows of data. There's no way you can process 1.2 million rows of data. We struggle with more than about 4 or 5 data points, let alone 1.2 million. So visualization is a sort of a crucial part here. And again, I can very quickly pick up by region where I've got my biggest gaps, by product. Here's the store. So each of these dots is a product. The red ones are unavailable and the gray ones are available. And I can very quickly zoom around here and get to see where my products I've got from problems in Granada. Click in Granada, click on those products, and straight away I get an idea of which stores are missing all 3 products, 2 products, 1 product, and I could, you know, I could send out a field sales team, for example, direct them towards these stores that are missing all of these. So again, a very flexible way of getting around your data, but very much concerned with what is happening now and how can I fix it to stop tomorrow being the same problem as today. It really is geared around that. It is not for looking at long-term trends, stores that have had like year-on-year, like-for-like problems, etc. This, that is a valuable thing to do, but you do that in a separate visualization. You wouldn't do that here. So by making these very highly focused dashboards, it allows us to achieve that. I'm going to move on to another example of a operational dashboard here. Now, this time we're going to go into the exciting world of promotions, sort of a bit of the holy grail for trying to create the perfect viz. I have tried, and I will admit, failed, hands up, many times to create monster vizzes and reports for promotions. And what we've stumbled across is breaking promotions down into the different things you want to look at. So this particular dashboard we're going to look at now is really not for telling us whether or not we're running the right promotional metric or not. It doesn't tell us whether a 3 for £2 or a 4 for £3 is better in the customer's eyes. It doesn't tell us which time of year to run them, what's more profitable, etc. We've got the right range on promotion, is the secondary space right? Those are things that are super important to do. That's all been done. We're going to run this promotion. Let's not mess it up, basically, in short. So this promotional tracker here, this is the front sheet. We've broken the promotion down into the 3 phases that we see of promotion. There's the entrance to the promotion. We want to make sure the stock is building as we go into the promotion to make sure when it goes on to promotion on day 1, the stock is ready. We've then got in flight, so the promotion is happening. We want to see how it's going. We want to make sure that we've got our uplifts correct, etc. And we've got the exit strategy. We want to make sure we don't left with lots and lots of stock, especially in the fresh area where you end up with a lot of wastage, and we find wastage happening 7 days after promotion finishes in so many cases because, the stuff lasts 7 days. It goes off, they've got this promotional stock in, and it just goes off basically, and they can't get through it. So this one here, first of all, let's set our promotion up. We can set the start date up here. We can set the length of the promotion. We can put in our expected uplift in volume. If there's a distribution increase as well, we can put that in there. This one hasn't. We can choose our products, and then we can start looking at it. So this is such an operational dashboard that it's really quite hard for me to demo it to you. Normally, you'd have to sit with me for 21 days and we could look at it every single day. Now, I don't think anyone's got that sort of time. So I've got a little cheaty hack here of pretending what the day is. So we're going to start off here with the day being 2 days before promotion starts. And straight away, our entry screen is telling us you have not got enough stock currently for when the promotion hits. So let's go to our entry screen. So here's the 3 products, and what we've got at the top here, this is the distribution across the top here, because some promotions extend the distribution during the promotional period. We want to make sure that's happened. So this links to the ranging system. We've then also got the stock position as well in depot and in store. And here is the key to it. This is the cumulative sales up here. And this here, the light grey is a forecast because we know what the uplift is, so we can forecast the cumulative sales. And the blue line here is the inbound stock. So are we sending stock in to meet with sales? And the idea is we want to get this blue line to match the sell line. We want to send in exactly what we sell. And we want to make sure that we've got that covered so that when the promotion hits, we have exactly the same stock cover. So what this is telling me is that actually this product here is actually pretty good. It's exactly what I want it to be. The blue line and the grey bar are identical, and so we are hitting exactly that. This little bar here tells me, yeah, you're right on line. However, we are quite concerned by this. We do not think you've got enough stock of this product for when the promotion starts to go, and it's giving you lots of highlighting here. It's actually telling you how much stock we think you are short of where you need to be at this stage. So let's jog this on a little bit. Let's jog this on into the first couple of days of promotion. So now this is what would happen if you were using it every day. So it kind of, yeah. So now we started the promotion, and we can actually see where the top position is. We can click on this product and again see how many it now thinks that we're 8,000 units short of where we need to be on this product. So this is going to cause us problems. So now that we're actually in the promotion, we'd now use the in-flight screen. So let's go to in-flight. So in flight, this is now giving us what our sales volume is for each product, what the uplift is, and here is our target, 140% we put in before, and how each product is doing against that target, Across the top here, we've got our forecast and our actual, so we can see whether we're actually hitting our, whether we're above or below our forecast. We've got our cumulative sales over the promotional period here. This is the forecast, and the green line here, the teal line, is telling us where we actually are. Here's our total stock, and here's our availability. Now, as suspected, we haven't got enough stock for this promotion, so we're starting to have problems in availability. And if I look at this particular product here, I can see this is well below its forecast. So this is not doing what it's supposed to do. These products, though, are picking up the slack. So although these products actually didn't have a problem, these products are well above their forecast. We didn't forecast for that. These have got availability problems. So even though we got the stock right for these two products, actually all the sales for getting this one wrong got transferred onto this. So if we'd been using this on a day-by-day basis, 3, 4, 5 days before the promotion started, we would have picked up that we've got problems on promotion. And therefore we could have done something about it so it wouldn't have caused this problem. And so we can this will run through promotion. It's gone a week. And we can just run through and we see, okay, someone's realized there was a problem. They sent some more stock in. We're actually tracking below where we thought we'd be because we had these availability problems. And we can see this running line here of where we are against where we thought we'd be by this stage. We get some KPIs across the bottom here telling us how we are doing against our uplift, etc. And we can keep on going through. So let's take us on to go on another week. So we're now nearing the exit phase of the promotion. So we can go into our exit screen. So the exit screen is kind of the same as the entry screen, really, but it's trying to make sure that when you exit the promotion, that you have the right stock level. And so what this really wants us to do is kind of tell you that at this point here, we've actually got enough stock, for example. We haven't in this situation, but imagine a well-run promotion. I've obviously picked quite a bad one to demonstrate the points. That at this point here, a week out, we've actually got enough stock of these products in store to satisfy demand. Therefore, as a manufacturer, we can stop sending stock in for this promotion. We've got enough to cover it. And so we can look at this as we go through, as we get closer and closer. It will tell us how we are doing and how close we are to meeting that particular thing, to meeting that particular goal of exiting nice and clean. So once the promotion is all done and dusted, we can now go back to our summary screen, and we get a nice summary of our promotion. Notice these little locks to say that this is now locked down. It tells us, okay, you messed up the entry by this many units. You're in flight, so actually we did 117%, so that was well below our target. We exited this. We've got a nice printable, we can PDF this, send it off. We've got a nice thing of what happened to promotion and why it went that way. So again, this is very highly focused. This is taking just one part of promotion, operational promotions, not strategy, operational. And even then, we're breaking it down into 3 separate phases, depending where you are in that cycle, so that you can really dig in and get the detail you need at that particular time. You don't really need to know about the entry position once you're in flight so much. So therefore, we can dedicate more screen space, more viz, make it clearer, simpler, easier, more relevant when you go there. So all of those are examples of operational dashboards. So they are dashboards that, as I said, you use to execute stuff. They are not there for strategy. Strategic dashboards are a completely different task, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples of them now. So this is a strategic dashboard looking at, for a category review, for example, looking at sales. So this is looking at my sales position. It's set to look at year to date, which is the most common way people look at it. And we have along the top, we have our sales value and what it is year to date. We have our volume, how our average selling price has changed, availability, etc. We have all our categories down here. We can flip between supplier and category if we wanted to as well. We've got a little flipper here, so we can flip and have a look by supplier if we wanted to, or flip back and look by category. It's all fully filterable. We can see what's driving our performance the most. So we can see that most of our performance is being driven by the everyday desserts category. We can click on that, and we can then see below here, we get to see all the SKUs that are driving it. And because we can't see all the SKUs in the view, we have this little extra chart here, which just tells me, oh, there's some red things off screen. So I can see down here. So the size of these little bars here is the size of the sales, and how far they are to the right or the left is whether they're up or down that year. We've then got some time series showing me the current period we're looking at this year and last year for sales value, sales volume, and the average price. So straight away, I can very quickly start investigating this. I can straight away see that actually our price is actually a bit higher than it was last year. But it's not having a detrimental effect on volume. In fact, we're selling actually more. Therefore, we're making a lot more money. And so we can very quickly, this is a dashboard for someone to investigate exactly what's happened. Again, I can add this to the category and turn it into a category specific dashboard and investigate things further. I kind of look at it that if someone spends more than 20 minutes a day in my operational dashboards, then I failed. If somebody spends less than 20 minutes in this dashboard, then I failed. You're supposed to be drawn into it and be able to sort of find the information you need. And because it is more of a way of diving around the dashboard, it has a few more knobs and buttons. So for example, it sets year to date by default, but I can set this along the bottom here to a custom period of time. I can get the last, say, 20 weeks. I can change this to whatever number of weeks I want to look at as a rolling period. I can get it versus this year versus last year. And again, everything updates to show me exactly that particular period of time. I can look at it by store format as well. So I can look at my convenience one instead of just the entire thing to see how things are going in my convenience estate. So this is a much deeper dive dashboard. But this is not the kind of thing you need to do every single day. This is the kind of thing when you want to do a review of your category, see whether a particular ranging decision was a good idea or not. Did it work out how we thought it would? All of that kind of thing is the sort of thing you do strategically. I'll look at one more example before we go into a few little tips and tricks, which is price. So you can dig even into something, the sales dashboard. We can really dig into price here, going into even greater depth. So along the top here, we have our average price, currently set over the last 20 weeks as a custom period of time. We can look at it year to date with a little flipper switch here. We can look at our volume, our value, and our volume. We can look at our ongoing products. So the products we've sold both periods of time, how are they doing? And what about the things we've got rid of and the things that we've introduced? Along here, I've used Emma Kosh, introduced us all to the tadpole chart, which I absolutely love. Fantastic way of looking at this. This shows me the current average price and what it was last year in a really nice way. So this gives me scale and change all in one go. Lovely. And I can see my volume year to date, because obviously volume times, we're really interested in the sales value. I mean, none of us get paid in units, do we? Unfortunately. And obviously I need the two things I want to know is the price and the volume, because those are the two things that affects the sales value, which at the end of the day is what I'm looking at. And all interactive again. I can see this by category or by supplier. I can see this by product. Now over on the right here, we've got something that's a little bit, a little bit unusual. This is a kind of a mirror bar chart. Most of the time your average price changes. It's not to do with the fact that you've changed the price on a particular product. That has an effect, but unless you're selling exactly the same volume of exactly the same products both years, that's not the effect, it's the mix. And this histogram shows me how my mix has changed. So if I click on, say for example, let's click on everyday desserts. We can update this and have a look. How's our mix changed? So our average price is actually is kind of more or less flat, but that's changed. The shape of it's changed quite drastically. We've got rid of quite a few. Here's my things I got rid of. So I got rid of some sort of lowish to medium price products. I've got a huge, I've started selling a whole load more volume through. So each of these stacked bars is a product in its volume, and it shows me how that's changed from year on year. And this is all highlightable. Click on those products. Okay, so these products were sold over these two price points of last year, and this year is selling them like that, and this gives me a view of that. So this is a very deep dive tool, getting into the real guts of like pricing, and be able to look at all the strategies of whether we meant or not to do that to our range. Maybe we wanted to premiumize our range. We wanted to introduce more high-priced products and get rid of some more commoditized, highly promoted products. Did that achieve what we wanted it to do? Did people do what we wanted them to do, etc.? So that gives you an idea of strategic dashboards, completely different purpose, totally different focus, completely different tasks, and therefore you build completely differently. And these are things that you're supposed to sit in for a while and really get deep and dirty with the data. So those are the sort of operational and task dashboards. So I was going to just show you a couple of tricks with actions, but first I wanted to just wax lyrical about something that I think is absolutely amazing. When it comes to like software, and this is why I think Tableau have absolutely nailed it so much. When it comes to software, there's two ways to it, especially in things like BI software. Either it does everything for you, you have no control. Something like Visible is a bit like that. or you have complete control to handcraft everything, such as something like the D3 libraries. But the disadvantage of a D3 library is that it takes a long time to do anything, whereas the advantage of the visible approach is that everything happens instantly with no training, but you have no control over it. So the holy grail is, as these starlings are demonstrating quite beautifully, is to have simple rules that can be combined imaginatively to create complex behavior. And Tableau have absolutely nailed this with the blue and the green pills, which I shan't go into here today. I could do an entire talk on why they're so good. And the other one is actions. Both of these features have barely changed since I started using the software, certainly 5 years ago, because they nailed them first time. And I want to show you how we can use some actions quite creatively to create that app-like behavior I was showing you before. So I shall duck out of this one here, and I have got, 1 second. I have got an empty version of this. So I'm going to first of all show you how we do the navigation across the top here. So this is a trick that's been out for a long time, but from the community questions I answer, people don't seem to be aware of it, so I thought I'd put it on a video here. Because the key to this is that when we select something to move across, it deselects itself. We haven't got that annoying thing where you've got to click it twice. So this is the ever deselecting itself navigation. So the first thing to do is we have a separate data source. We have this navigation data source. It is purely an Excel spreadsheet with the numbers. Here we go, numbers 1 to 100. It can actually be less than 100, but I actually find it quite useful to have the numbers 1 to 100 anyway as a data source. So we always, all of our models have a navigational data source. When you saw me flicking from screen to screen a bit like PowerPoint-esque, those are all done off the navigational data source, exactly the same. And all it is numbers 1 to 100. And what we do is we create this formula here called increment ID. And this just says if the ID is greater than or equal to 100, then 1, else ID plus 1. So what that does is do this. So each thing goes 1, 2, 3, 4 thing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set up a sheet. We're going to hit an action off it, and we're going to send the incremental ID to the ID. And what's going to do is it's going to essentially deselect itself by doing that. I shall try my best to explain how and why this works. I've had more success with trying to explain to other people, so I shall do my best. So here's our inbound. Here is our let's go for this one here. Sorry, our outbound to navigate to the outbound. This is just a bar chart that's made to look like a tile. There's nothing special here. It's just the one, and we just made it really big. Nothing special here. And we want to set up an action. So if we look here, the key to this, if you 1 second. Okay. So the key to this is we've got 100 marks. I use this little key down here so much. So 100 marks. So we've got 100 of these stacked off one another. Think of these like a post-it note. This is 100 post-it notes with the word outbound on it. So we're going to set up our navigation. So we're going to go to our dashboard. We go to our actions. We're going to set up a filter action. I'll make this nice and big so everyone can see what's going on here. There we go. So we are going to we're going to set it on the navigation to the one we're just doing. So the the outbound selected. We're going to do it as a select. We're going to leave all on the filter, and we're going to go to the outbound detail, which is where we want to go. And we are going to deselect all those. And we've got in here navigational. We've got the same sheet basically in the other dashboard, so we can just go to that sheet. Doesn't really matter which one you choose. And what we're going to do here is we're going to set up this filter to send the increment ID to the ID. So now, when I click on outbound, it will go as well. So when I go back to inbound, outbound hasn't deselected itself. Why is that? Because we need to make this this navigation. We've still got 100 marks here. We need to make this navigation apply to every single sheet. And this is the key to both tricks I'm going to show you today. Is that when you hit an action, it creates the action in a way which is this set. It creates this filter set, and this is a completely normal filter. So I can just go add to worksheet, and all using this data source. So now the ID equals 100. Let's go back into here. oops, not that one. I wanted to go into the outbound screen, apologies, and go back to inbound. If we now look at our inbound navigation, we can now see the ID equals 1, and we've only got 1 mark. So what's happening is, you think of our 100 post-it notes, we are clicking on the first post-it note, which is labeled 1. We are sending it the increment ID, which equals 2. So the one that's been selected is now being filtered out. So the new one now that appears is number 2, and number 2 has not been selected before, and therefore it's not selected. That's the best explanation I can give. But as you click on it, each time we click on something, it will increment by 1. So now we're on 2, it'll go 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is a great way that you can get a very seamless navigation from dashboard to dashboard. Now, using this same trick, we also want to do something similar with this global filtering. So this is a little bit more involved, but still uses the same principle. So I have a local filter. I can click on that, and that filters locally. Now I have this this little bar chart here, which is just a brushing bar chart. If we look at it here, it's just a brushing bar chart that will brush to whatever's selected to it. And I have my skew and description, and I've created a duplicate of it. I've got this skew and description global. This is important to create a duplicate, which we'll see in a second. So that is just the same field again, just repeated. And I've added that field to all of my skew level details. So if I look at my bar chart, I have this skew and description global in my level of detail here. So what we can do is we're going to have another action. This one's going to be called add to global. This will be a menu. We'll create it on the leave, and we're going to send this action to. Oops. We're going to send this action to our bar chart of the skews that are in view or not in view. If I just do that, and we only want to trigger this from the skew details. And what we're going to do is go in here, and we're going to set the skew and description global to skew and description global, the menu item, etc., etc. Okay, and click OK. So what happens now is when I hover this like this, I've got this option add to global, add it to my global, and it adds it here, but it's not been added anywhere else. So I've still got all the products in view here. So again, I go to here. It's a completely normal filter. I can see it here, and I can apply to all using this data source. Now when I go back in here, I now have everything filtered to just these, but this remains local because this action is set on skew and description. This is set on skew and description global, the copy of it. And we can go even one step further than this because actually it is a real filter, and actually we can find it in the filters. Here it is. Here's my action. Put it in there. Let's make it a little bit nicer. Let's turn it into a multi-value drop down. Let's add an apply button to it as well. Pop it up here. And now we can go to our outbound, or anywhere we want. We can go in here and we can add products from here. So that's how we can get those tricks going. So that is everything I've got. I hope you've found that useful. I hope you can take on board that if you design for a specific purpose and be really strict about that, it requires some very challenging conversations with people. When you show them how much more effectively they can do their job, you really can get visual analytics embedded as the kind of the default way that people do their job. Over to everybody else. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Simon.
No problem at all.
All right, I just wanted to hit on a few things. Kevin and I will just wrap up really quick. Real fast, the Tableau conference in October. If you guys have never been before, this is my 4th time attending this year, and there will probably be 24 of us from Chick-fil-A at the conference this year. We're taking more and more people every single year. It's by far the best conference I've been to, and it's not just a good Tableau software conference, it's a good analytics data conference. So there's over 16,000 people there. We wanted to let you all know there is a dedicated retail and consumer goods track, and there will be in-person meetups. So at the conference this year, we will have a chance to get together as a community. This virtual group, we can actually meet one another. So if you are attending, that is something just to think about. And on the next slide, we've got some images of just different customers, different retail businesses that are presenting this year at the conference. So you can see there's just an impressive list of retail companies, all sorts of companies presenting. And this is part of that retail track. So if you go out to the TC website, you can kind of look and plan out your schedule and try to hit some of these. And you see here, Chick-fil-A is one of them. I'll be speaking at the conference this year. So I encourage everybody to check out this retail and consumer goods track.
So yeah, I would love to second Simon. That was really awesome. Really excited about the things you shared, and I personally got a lot of learning out of it as well as my team. We wanted to let you guys know that we'll have 2 more meetings coming up. We expect to have a session in October, followed by one in January. Hey, if you're interested in speaking, we would love to talk to you about some potential topics that you may have around some things you're doing, some really good content to be able to share with the group. Both Karen and my email is below for you to be able to reach out to us and ask any questions. I think the content for today will all be posted or either communicated to you guys. I think we also recorded the session, so you'll be able to follow along or go back and review all the great things that Simon shared with us today. I also think, Simon, there were some questions that were asked as well in the QA session. So I think you were planning on answering those questions as well. I'm not sure if we'll have enough time, but I think we have about 5 minutes or so. So Simon, would you like to tackle some of those questions?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, no problem at all. Yes. So I've got a couple of questions from Zach. So are you using action filters for the different tabs across the top? So hopefully, Zach, I sort of showed you, yes, I'm actually using separate sheets and actions to drive it across, and hopefully you can see exactly how I've done that. The other one's a great question from Zach as well. How have you optimized for performance with so many visualizations in a single view? And are you using one data set or is it blended? So it's a great question, because one of the keys to getting people to use these operational day-by-day dashboards is performance. It has to be quick and snappy. And the app-like experience is not just the way it works, it's how fast it works. Think on your mobile phone. If any app, you press a button and you have to wait 2 seconds for it to happen, you're getting rid of that app straight away. So actually, when we develop, we will use LODs, we'll use whatever we need to do to develop it. Once we've done that, we'll normally go back and write the LODs into the data source if we can. We're not using a blend here. We've actually unioned the data together. So we've actually got a bit of an ugly, to be fair, union of the store availability data and the supply chain data. So it sits in one data source. We restrict it to the last 28 days to make it as fast as humanly possible. We do everything we can to optimize the speed of this. So we develop it to get the general idea. We don't do the optimization then, because we might waste time optimizing things we don't end up using. Once we're going to go into production, absolutely, we go through it with a fine-tuned code and think every single place where we could not have a calculation done on the fly, if we can pre-compute it in the database, we will do. So that's an absolutely great question. Something we spent a lot of time thinking about and working how we can get it even faster. Anthony and actually Zach as well have asked whether there'll be a dummy version of this workbook. I will work up not this entire presentation, because while it was hacked together, and also I've not fully anonymized in the background everything. This, by the way, was all real data. I've anonymized the names, but the stories were true. I need to anonymize all that. So I'll put a couple of samples up on our Athene site, and I'll send that out to the wider group as well, so you can link into that as well. And that, I think, is all the questions that we had.
Awesome. Simon, thanks again. This was an awesome presentation once again. And thank everyone for joining. We really hope to see you in the October meeting. And as we said earlier, if you have any interest in presenting, please let Karen or myself know. Hope everybody has a great week. Thank you.
Thank you.